How's it going, guys? Desert Monk here again. It's been a reasonably rainy day today, so I thought we could talk about the rain of life. It seemed like an interesting topic that I haven't covered. Before we get into that, go ahead and drop down in the comments what is your favorite rainy day activity? So, to get started, instead of the calm before the storm, I know that's a common expression. Today we're going to be talking about the storm before the calm. One thing I've realized throughout life is that usually after something's really hard, and you get past it, there's a moment of calm, stillness. You don't, a sense of relief in a way. You're done with it. You know, you put all this effort and stress into getting through some sort of hardship, and then it's over, and you're kind of left there in peace. There's some calmness to that. So I've noticed, and it's not the worst idea, but most people stay inside when it rains. Their life gets put on pause. So if it's really storming out, you might wait till that's over to then go to the store to finish whatever task you might have had that day. Kind of let that storm die down. But a mistake people make is they do that in life as well. Whenever it feels like there's a storm on its way, something hard, you kind of freeze up. Paralysis by analysis. You're so busy worried about your issue that is upcoming that you end up doing nothing to take care of it. You kind of sit there and wait for the storm to end. But unfortunately, unlike a real storm, the storm of life doesn't end unless you take actions to make it stop. That'll be an endless storm if you don't go out there and get through it. So, don't do that. Do not do that. Rain is what makes the desert bloom, after all. So, after that storm comes the resurgence of everything that's good. Everything in your life that might not be right now. Once you push through that storm, you're going to see on the other end that it was worth it. You're going to see those blooming flowers, even if you can't see them down the path. Something could be blocking the way of those, and you got to get past that to then see them. So you can't just sit still when it comes to that kind of storm. And there's going to be many rainy seasons in life. I mean, I live in the desert. We don't get too much rain. But you definitely have rainy days, metaphorically, all the time. But that doesn't mean life stops. So that's when it's time to really put yourself out there, is when you feel that storm. That's what's going to benefit you more than... You can't always hope that for easy weather, in this instance, it'd be an easy life. You can't just sit around and hope for that to come. The night is darkest before the dawn. And when things feel gloomy or heavy, those are the periods that you're going to experience the most growth. No one became a better person without those hard times. because you use them as an example to solve the next one, because there's always going to be another storm. So without those gloomy times, you would never be able to deal with the next one. But you have to push through those to gain the experience to get to the next storm, and the next storm, maybe you're more prepared the next time, you know? You brought your umbrella. That's how you have to think about it. First time you're in the storm, you're soaking wet, it was brutal. Then you get a light bulb to get an umbrella. Maybe get some weather-resistant clothing. You know, it's the same thing with the storm of life. You're going to build that mental toughness and that preparation to be prepared to deal with the next issue you have, instead of just throwing your hands up in the air and being like, well, I had a good run, and this is where life stops. You can't do that. It's impossible. Another good way to look at it is you need a good set of windshield wipers, right? To clear out everything on your windshield so you can see where you're going. Without those, it's going to be a pretty rough drive getting home in the storm. And that's your goals. You always want to make it back home, which in this instance would be happiness, your comfort. You're trying to get back to that once you have a storm in your life. And without the windshields, you're not going to be able to, or windshield wipers, I should say, you're not going to be able to do that. You need them. And in the scenario of life, your wipers are your habits, your routine, your positive things you bring into the life that you have. You know, if you have those, you're going to be able to wipe all the debris out of your way to get to your goal. You know, without those, you're going to crash. So that's an easy way to think of it, is all the positive habits and routines you have in your life, those really are your windshield wipers. And they're very necessary so you can get back to a peaceful place in your life. Luckily for me, it looks like the rain has started to clear up over here. And what do you know? It's nice and sunny now. So, perfect example of once the storm's passed, you're back to the sun, the energy of life. And then the best part about the rain too is it's going to bring more life to all the flowers and plants out here, and we need it. It's been fairly dry. And I think sometimes in your life, you need that struggle too. Sometimes you'll see this with people. They might have been diagnosed with an illness or had some sort of injury. And I'm not saying we should hope for these things, but you'll see that those hardships is what turn their life around. I'll see people get into car accidents or have a really bad spell with drugs and deal with these horrible things, and they have to get to such a low from that it actually sparks them to be better. And that's what I'm talking about, where the storm makes you a better person if you can persevere through it. You'll see people diagnosed with these diseases, or the doctor gives them some bad news, and that's the spark they needed to turn their life around, to make changes. And what I'm trying to get across to you guys is, don't wait for it to get to that point. You can be proactive. Like, something horrible doesn't have to happen in your life for you to then start making the turn towards being better and being more prepared for the next storm. If you do it now, these kind of things that come up in life aren't going to be as hard. So be proactive. Prepare those windshield wipers now so you don't have to try to get a hold of some mid-storm, or tough the storm out without them and be like, man, I sure wish I had them now. You don't want to be that. You don't want to feel like, I coulda, shoulda, woulda done this, but here I am now and I'm eating it. That's not a good feeling. So, work on those wipers now, and in the long run, they're going to keep the glass of your life nice and clean so you can see where you're going and get to your goal. That is my message of the day. I'm Desert Monk, and I'll see you guys in the next round. Have a great one.